Imagine you just bought a brand new Steam machine, but once you hit that power button, instead of being greeted by your library or the friendly SteamOS intro, the screen stops. It asks for your birth date with a digital handshake from your state ID. This is no longer a what-if scenario. This is the legal reality heading toward every PC user in the most populous state in America. California has just signed Assembly Bill 1043, also known as the Digital Age Assurance Act. And while the headlines are talking about protecting the kids, the fine print is doing much more. It is fundamentally rewriting how operating systems, including Linux and SteamOS, are allowed to function. We're going to look at why Governor Gavin Newsom thinks this law is actually too weak, why this is a technical nightmare for the Linux community, and why Valve might be forced to fundamentally change SteamOS. California's new law set to go live on January 1st, 2027, targets the foundational layer of technology, the operating system provider. According to the text of the bill, an operating system provider is defined as a person or entity that develops, licenses, or controls the operating system software on a computer, mobile device, or any other general-purpose computing device. Under Section 1798.501 of the new Civil Code, these providers, which includes Microsoft, Apple, and Valve, are now legally required to act as the gatekeepers of age. They have three specific mandates that change the way your computer talks to your software. Number one is the interface. During the initial setup of any device, the operating system must provide an interface where the account holder indicates the birth date of the primary user. Then there's the API. The OS must maintain a reasonably consistent real-time API, which goes into the handshake, as every time you launch an app, whether it's Discord, a Steam game, or just a browser, that app will ping the operating system and ask how old is this person. The OS then returns what the law calls age bracket data. The law mandates 4 distinct categories: under 13, 13 to 16, 16 to 18, and 18 or older. But here's the gotcha that makes this law so dangerous for companies like Valve. The bill introduces a legal trigger called actual knowledge. The law states a developer that receives a signal indicating a user's age shall be deemed to have actual knowledge of the user's age, even if the developer willfully disregards the signal. So this is a massive shift in liability. If SteamOS learns this user is 14 and that kid gets shown something that they shouldn't, or collects their data without parental consent, they can no longer claim they didn't know. They are now liable for fines of up to $7,500 per child for intentional violations. Now you might be thinking, I'll just put in a fake birthday, problem solved, especially as it seems it only needs to be a prompt and not a full-blown ID check. Well, Governor Gavin Newsom is way ahead of you. Newsom stated that while the bill is a meaningful step, he is urging the legislator to make the verification standards even stricter before the 2027 deadline. Right now, the law allows for self-reporting. Basically, it'll just be you saying that you are an adult, but Newsom and the sponsors of the bill are pushing for high assurance verification, things like the integration of mobile driver's license and hardware-backed identity checks. The goal is a system where your PC is tied to a government-verified ID system, but this is where things actually get messy for the Linux community. Linux is built on the philosophy of freedom, privacy, and user control, but California's law doesn't care about that philosophy. Because the law defines an operating system provider so broadly, it theoretically pulls in every Linux distribution. As many users on Hacker News pointed out, this creates an impossible compliance loop. In Linux, the user has root access. You technically own the machine. If an operating system is required to provide a reasonably consistent API for age, what's to stop a Linux user from simply writing a script that tells the API, or even simpler, what stops a developer from forking a distro and removing the age prompt altogether? The technical reality is that you cannot force a decentralized open source kernel to comply with a regional age gating law without destroying the very nature of Linux. As one developer put it, how do you enforce a California law on a kernel developed by people all over the planet? The short answer is you can't, but that won't stop California from trying. tracking. For volunteer community-ran projects, even a single lawsuit could be a massive hit. They don't have the legal teams that Microsoft or Apple or even Valve have. They are faced with two choices. They either build in the government surveillance or stop distributing their OS to anyone inside California. Valve is in a unique and dangerous position here. SteamOS is a specialized version of Arch Linux that they use for their hardware. That makes them a massive target for California, but Valve is already familiar with this. In the UK, they were forced to implement strict age verification for certain types of content, but this California law is a bit different. It's not just about a check your age box on a store page when you want to look at mature content. It's about the operating system itself needing to broadcast your age to every app you open. If Valve wants to keep selling their hardware with SteamOS in California, they have two choices. They either build a lockdown version of SteamOS specifically for that state's users that requires a verified login to boot, or they bake this into SteamOS for everyone to simplify their overhead and plan in advance before more states and countries do similar things, essentially just saving them time for the future. But the thing is, not everyone is taking this lying down. NetChoice, the trade association that represents tech giants like Google, Meta, and Amazon, has called on Gavin Newsom to veto this law and others similar to it. Even the Motion Picture Association urged Newsom to reject the bill, stating that device-based age checks are a disaster for family units. They asked what happens when a parent and a child share the same streaming profile on a single device. The law currently doesn't have a clean answer for multi-user households, but some people might be saying, I don't live in California, so why does this matter to me? And that's because where California goes, the rest of the country and often the world would follow. There is a bipartisan appetite for protecting children that is being used as a Trojan horse for total digital identity tracking, as we're seeing a huge rise with ID verification across the internet with things like YouTube, Discord, and others. So because California is such a massive market, if Microsoft builds a digital age signal into the core of Windows 11 to satisfy California, they are likely going to ship that same version of Windows to everyone else. And this is how we are set to lose the anonymous PC. We are moving toward a world where your hardware is tethered to your legal identity from the moment you press the power button. It starts with just a simple birth date box, but as Gavin Newsom said, that's just the beginning, and they want much more. The end game is a digital ID check for every single session. While Valve has a history of fighting for users, they are a corporation at the end of the day, so they will have to follow the law to protect their bottom line, similar to how they were forced to in the UK. The real question is, what happens to Linux? Does the community-led world of open source get a carve-out, or will it be crushed under the weight of $7,500 fines per user? This is a situation that will only get crazier as we approach that 2027 deadline, especially as they want to make the law more strict. Keep a very close eye on your SteamOS or Windows updates, but as the Electronic Frontier Foundation has warned, this is often a Trojan horse for total digital identity tracking. Once the infrastructure is built into your kernel, it's only a matter of time before the government asks for more.